And the next thing on our agenda is the Reach Recognition Team Award. Peter, can you take us through that?
I can, and as hopefully people can see, we've had a number of colleagues from Combined join us on the call, which is great. What we've also got, I can see myself twice on screen now, that's disconcerting. What we also have on screen, hopefully we can expand that a little, is just a little bit of narrative in relation to who this month has been nominated. So the group, as it were, this month was corporate teams, support service teams, and we spent only a little amount of time, it has to be said, as an executive team, having a conversation about which teams would be best to nominate this month. And we came to the really, really quick conclusion that actually it has to be all of the corporate teams, and for a variety of reasons. But for me, and as we go through the slides, if we can keep going, Joe, people will be able to read some of the narrative that's been submitted in relation to why. But for me, key in all of this is how all of those corporate teams have worked together, particularly over the last 12 months, to address a variety of hugely complex issues. And I'm going to just mention one thing, I suppose, that provides an example, a description of that working together piece. And that's the COVID bulletins that we've been producing since obviously the start of COVID. And it just happens that today is the anniversary of the first bulletin that went out a whole 12 months ago. Now, those bulletins superficially, for the recipient, is a list of things that are really important to them, that describe what happens next. But actually, fundamentally, what those bulletins do are to take national, regional and local guidance, advice and detail that often was changing by the day. You've got to remember, back in April, May time last year, advice and guidance would change literally within the space of 24 hours. So a variety of professionals across the list of teams that are rolling on screen would have to come together, would have to fundamentally get to grips with what that national guidance was saying for ourselves in Combined. That then would have to be converted to a narrative, a language that people could best understand. And then, of course, from there, we'd have to make sure that the incident control room related to that guidance and narrative, because it would be rather foolish to send an all staff comms out that didn't align with our next steps through the incident control room. And then, of course, the digital team would need to make sure that that communication was done effectively. We had the right platforms. And of course, last but by no means least, the communication team would need to make sure that it came through to us effectively. And so you can imagine that's just one example of a huge raft of things, of challenges that collectively those corporate teams have addressed and overcome over the last 12 months by working together. So as Joe's provided on screen there, you can see that all of the teams fundamentally have contributed and deserve credit for the award. So that is the rationale, that is the award this month. And what I'm going to do, as I tend to do on these occasions and hope it works, is to ask everybody to come off mute and give a round of applause in a couple of seconds. Okay, so here goes. Now, I don't think we have a particular spokesperson for this award, because as you can see, we've got so many people on. So I'm not going to ask any one of them to step forward and to to say a few words because that would be wholly unfair. But as I say, just to reiterate, incredibly well done. A huge thank you from the whole board, and I'm sure David and others will reiterate that. And the chat is coming in now. And a personal thank you for me for all that you've done over the last 12 months.
That's absolutely brilliant, Peter, and a sort of inevitable conclusion, isn't it?
Yes.
And you know, we got to remember that some of these people have been working at Harplands or in the community. Others have been working from home, and working from home brings its own challenges. You know, if you're working from home and you've got children home from school, it is really tough proposition too. So it's a balanced thank you across everybody who's worked for these supportive parts of the organisation. So thank you very much. Shall we move on again? Peter, you're in the limelight again for your Chief Executive's report.
Yes, I'm back on. That's fine, David. Right, I'm going to mention 4 things, if I may, today. Firstly, and incredibly importantly, we've had it confirmed from the regulator that they support David's, our chair's, extension of his tenure. Don't drop your head, David. It's a fantastic news story. So David's been extended for 3 years from the 1st of April through to March 2024. So a thumbs up from the non-executives there, David. That's good news. So well done, and fantastic news. And of course, the other thing I would say in that regard is that gives us great continuity as we go into a period of change across both our system and nationally in terms of regulatory change, etc. So fantastic news in that regard as well. Okay, so the other 3 things that I want to mention. Firstly, as you will see within the CEO report, and hopefully people have penciled in their diaries for later this afternoon, we have our Digital Reach Awards. The difference this year, of course, is that it goes out digitally through this mechanism. But actually, reflecting on that over the last few days,
Have we lost you, Peter?
Right, I'm back. Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Sorry, I'm not sure where I got to. I was on the Reach Awards. I'll continue on the Reach Awards. So, as I was saying, the fact that it's digital this time round means that we have the opportunity for so many more people to access the awards, as opposed to circa 250 people cramming into a facility somewhere on Festival Park. You know, this is a far better opportunity for me because it gives, well, frankly, 2,000 people, our full staff base, the ability to view and participate in the awards. So I sincerely hope that you are all going to enjoy the event, and a huge thank you to the communications team and for others that have been involved in the production of the event, which has been rather hard work over the last few months, but all absolutely worthwhile. Secondly, our staff survey results are, the embargo on the detail is being released today, which is fantastic news because I'm able to report that they are our best results ever. Our best results ever in relation to the number of people that have participated, and overall our best results ever. And given the challenges that we've faced over the last 12 months, I am absolutely humbled by the fact that the outcome is as it is. It says a huge amount for the camaraderie, the morale, the effectiveness of all of our staff, and of course a massive thank you as well to those in front of me, the executive team. We'll send out details shortly, as well as a broader communication on the detail, but I'm hugely proud to be able to announce that today and to be part of an organisation with such fantastic results. So really well done. And then the other thing, as I mentioned a moment ago, is that it is indeed a full 12 months to the day that we released our first all-staff comms bulletin around COVID through Jonathan's office, which frankly, I would like to say that time has flown, but it hasn't. It's been at times incredibly slow, difficult, challenging agenda for us all. But I'm hugely pleased to say that we've got through it in an effective way, and we're now in a place where community levels of COVID are going down steadily. Hospital levels of COVID are also going down steadily. The vaccination programme is rolling out at pace across Staffordshire. I understand Staffordshire is one of the fastest vaccination counties across the country, which is all great. The one caveat I would say to all of that, of course, is that we still need to be absolutely cautious, even though the data and the situation is going in the right direction, absolutely cautious, and to not take our foot off the pedal in relation to all of the protections and care that we take, whether it be PPE or other aspects. But it is a good news story as we sit here today. So those are the things I wanted to mention, David. I'm happy to pick up any other bits and pieces as people see fit.
Thanks very much, Peter. Any questions for Peter? Yes. Joan and Russell. Joan,
thank you, and thanks for all that contribution, Peter, and congratulations, David. That continuity is going to be really important going forward. It's just a very quick question from me, Peter, in terms of, with post-COVID, hopefully, and some return, not necessarily to how it was before, to how it's going to be in the future. I just wonder, given the kind of sensitivity and importance of where we are with Nivden, whether or not this now gives us an opportunity to be able to start to get that working group and perhaps have some progress on that.
Yeah, so I'm going to generalise the response a little bit, Joan, if that's okay, because it's important to put any one of our services, I suppose, into perspective. So we have a professional CPAG, it's referred to, professional advisory group that was set up at the start of COVID to make technical clinical decisions, and that can be in relation to services changing, personnel moving across parts of the organisation to support more pressurised elements. So it is fundamentally there to ensure that we make the right clinical decisions based on a risk assessment in relation to any one of our services, and Nivden is included within that. What I would say is that, yes, there's an opportunity to do two things. Firstly, continue the conversation about Nivden, what can and can't be done over coming days and weeks at the centre through CPAG, but at the same time have conversations in the background with stakeholders about the broader opportunities beyond specifically Nivden, which we've started, as you know, to an extent, but I think is a good opportunity now. It's a good opportunity now to extend those conversations to continue to understand what the longer term can hold for the services up in that Moorlands area.
Okay,
thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Russell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks for the summary, Peter. Really helpful. A number of the items that you covered off there, and also in the report that you didn't cover off, have a significant comms element to them. And we've had an unusual year, we all know that, but it's forced us to adopt a different approach to comms. And I just wondered, and obviously we've got Joe on the call as well, how's the learning being captured from all of this kind of environment that we've been operating in, where we've had stakeholder roadshows, we've had a lot of things like that going on. How's that being captured and put into a refreshed comms strategy, both internally and externally?
Joe's taken himself off mute. I suspect he may wish to respond to that.
Okay, so thanks for that, Russell. I'm very quickly. So we actually have a 2 to 3 year strategic review of comms, which was published about a year or so ago, which sets in which we're going to refresh literally in the next month, but which takes us on further on the journey that we want to go on. I think what you'll find when you see that, and I will absolutely, Russell, want to pick your brains on this, is what you'll find is what has happened over the last year is essentially it's fast tracked a load of things that we've wanted to do for ages. We've been able to make a brilliant virtue out of necessity, and I think it's also shown the art of the possible. And the other thing that I should say is the exec team also have been brilliant and have authorised some further investment in the team, particularly on digital, which is absolutely brilliant. So it's sort of watch this space, if you like. We'll get Reach out of the way this afternoon. We're then going to really motor on. But I'll come and pick your brains mercilessly if that's okay.
Right, I think so. Yeah, good. Thanks.
Okay, Chris, did you want to add something?
Thanks, Chair. I was just going to make the broader point that Russell's absolutely right to focus on comms. Joe is when he says get Reach out of the way is skirting over a huge amount of work that's been done, particularly over the past few days. I think Joe is counting the hours of sleep on one hand, aren't you? I think to get us ready for this afternoon. Just on the broader point about how we learn lessons across functions other than comms, colleagues may remember some time ago we agreed a process of kind of recovery and restoration that's been on hiatus a little bit as we've gone back into lockdown and focused on response again. But we've got the first meeting of the corporate recovery group scheduled for later this month, which aims to bring some of that, capture some of that learning and consolidate it into how we arrange ourselves going forward. So we'll bring updates from that as and when.
Thanks for that. I mean, I should have prefaced my question by saying I think we've been doing a great job, so thanks for that. And I do look forward to the report. And seriously, Joe, I'm happy to engage with you. So thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Anybody else before we move on? Joan, you still got your hand up, or is it a new one?
No, it's a legacy one.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
Much. I'm trying to overtake the clock at the moment, and it's within my hands because the next bit's the chairman's comments. So I will do my best with that. There's not much I want to say really, except we are at a very change-filled stage in the development of the NHS, and the NHS, the H is health, it's not healthcare, and we're embracing the concept that health is what we're about, and locality is what we're about. So one of the things that COVID has taught us is that the stuff that we have organised locally tends to have worked more effectively than the stuff that's been organised nationally. And there's an admission too, I think, up in the upper echelons of NHS that a lot of the integration agenda will stand a much better chance of success if it is pushed together locally and not nationally. And in that regard, the ICPs across North Staffordshire in particular are ahead of the rest of the county and a lot of the rest of the country. And we need to continue to ensure that a lot of our executive and non-executive power is directed into that. The only other thing I wanted to say at this stage is there's a lot of talk about recovery, and often recovery is in the context of long waiting lists that we've got to overcome, both mental health as well as physical health. But it's also time for recovery for our staff, and we've got to somehow work into the next few months an ability to enable staff to have recovery time of their own. And that's not easy with all the pressures that are going on. And I'm looking over into GP territory as well, Keith, because you know, GPs have taken on and done wonders with the vaccination program, but that's doubling in size over the next week or two. So the demands on that side of things are just growing and growing. So yeah, it's recovery, but somehow we've got to build in some recovery time and recovery for all the people involved. So that's all I wanted to say, really, and I'm not sure we could talk about that stuff forever. I don't think we need to. It's pretty self-evident.